Hello, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. Welcome back once again to the 2019 Small Farms Winter Webinar Series hosted by the University of Illinois Extension's Local Food Systems and Small Farm team. Once again, this is Zach Grant, Local Food Systems and Small Farm Educator in Cook County, and moderator and coordinator for your weekly dive into all things small farms. We really appreciate you joining us once again for these webinars, and we are going to do our best to begin and end within the space of the lunch hour. This is a tight time frame for our educators. So please understand why we're going to limit your questions to the text box at the left as usual, and I'll do my best to curate those questions for the end for our presenters as time allows. Remember, this presentation is being recorded, and I will email a link to the archive presentation as soon as possible after this concludes. There will also be a link for a very short online evaluation as usual for this presentation, both in the email, and there will be one in the notes for the YouTube video as well. And we really appreciate your feedback for these webinars. This week's presentation is from Grant McCarty. Grant's my fellow educator housed in Joe Davies, Stevenson, and Winnebago counties in northwestern Illinois. He's originally from East Tennessee. And Grant works both in commercial and backyard grower scales with producers providing resources in fruit and veg production. His area of expertise includes soil management, hops, general organic sustainable production, alternative crops, general fruit and vegetable production. He further assists stakeholders within the local food system in helping them to expand their operations, adopt new practices, and or better manage their current production. Grant received his bachelor's degree in sociology from Maryville College in 2008 and a Master of Science in Plant Sciences at the University of Tennessee in 2012. His research there focused on sustainable alternatives to methyl bromide in bell pepper and tomato production. Grant's going to take us today into the realm of digital marketing strategies for the local food systems and small farms. Thanks for joining us today, Grant. Go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Zach. I'm Zach's colleague in the north, so I'm about 8 miles from Wisconsin state line. Thank you all for having me today. This is a project and a topic I've been working on for the last year and a half. Going to national trainings, going through a couple of just online trainings to really see what digital marketing looks like, what this also looks like from a local food system. Because I think a lot of us that are involved in selling in the local food system and start to kind of get into more digital marketing, start to realize that there's not a lot of information out there, and it also maybe doesn't have as much relevancy to you. So this project and this presentation is kind of sculpted in such a way to really look at the local food system and how digital marketing fits in with that. So today's presentation is going to be kind of a 3-part. I'll do a bit of an introduction into what digital marketing is, what options are out there. The middle part would be a lot on Facebook, because that still is the most dominant digital marketing strategy that most individuals in the local food system utilize. And then the last part will be kind of getting ready for 2019. What are we kind of projecting to see as far as some differences and so forth? Zach has sent out 2 handouts. One is today's presentation. The other one is a definition sheet, if you will. If you're unfamiliar with digital marketing, you know there's a lot of acronyms and there's a lot of new words that maybe you're a little unfamiliar with. And so I tried to really create a sheet that could really help you out as I go along, because I will be using some of those words off and on. You'll also see on that sheet that there is kind of an overview on the generations. I've done a lot of work on understanding generations and generational buyers and consumers. And so I include that because it is something that gets brought up quite often when it comes to the digital marketing strategies you're going to do. So let's get going. So we want to start with the definition, of course. Digital marketing, it's a strategy of reaching your marketing goals through digital technologies. Sounds pretty simple. Instead of, say, relying on a newspaper ad or a radio ad or a TV commercial, you are now kind of relying more on the digital strategies that are available to you. It's also really managing different forms of your online presence for different customers in their buyer's journey. You'll hear this a lot, the buyer's journey, as well as where customers are. And so that's one thing that we take to heart with the digital strategy in digital marketing. Those who are strangers, who have no idea what your business is, those who maybe have started to visit your website and maybe get a little familiar with who that you are, and then those that become a customer and finally a promoter. The promoters are the ones that believe heavily in your brand, the ones that you commonly see at the farmers markets, the ones that are ordering their CSA every year, and the ones that really help you expand your business through word of mouth. One of the trainings that I went through this past spring was inbound marketing. And it is one that I encourage you to maybe look a little bit more into because it is a large component of digital marketing. And it is one that kind of reframes the way that we approach customers. And I think that's one thing you might get a benefit out of and look more into it. And the inbound marketing is what you see here to the left. So why are we here today? On digital marketing, 89% of all consumers are now online. 77% have a smartphone. For different generations, like Generation Z or millennials, smartphone usage is even higher than this. It's also, I think, important to realize that many of these consumers are expecting to have interactions with your farm and product, especially online, is what you really start to see here. So automatically, when you get more into the local food system, you have to think about where you're at and where you're at digitally. I also think it's important to start telling your story earlier online and digitally before someone else tells your story. You see this occasionally if you search for a business and the business maybe has not claimed their Google business, and someone has already left a very negative review on that Google business. And now the first instinct when someone searches for that business is they see a negative review. You sometimes also see this where people have claimed a website already that is your farm, and now you're having to, maybe pay a more substantial fee to reclaim this website back. So really telling the story before someone else does is crucial for the digital marketing. In thinking about your digital marketing, you want to still get back to your marketing principles, who your customers are, who your customers could be. And don't say that all your customers are those that live in your city or in your town. Really think about what these customers are. You also want to then connect this to where your customers are digitally located. I recognize that this is all easier said than done. A lot of you probably already have some idea, but I recognize that this can take some time and take some effort. This is why you've got the winter, right? Start thinking about your customers. I also encourage you to start thinking about, what are the buying habits and the generational demographics occurring. There's a lot of great research out there on buying habits and trends that can really help you start to see if your product, if your farm really aligns quite well with where different customers are on, generational customers are. For instance, millennials, many of them are beginning to purchase their first home, to have children. Many of them are also starting to get married. And so you may find that you have a product that kind of aligns with some of these things, such as an orchard, pick your own pumpkin patch, flowers for weddings. Generation Z, most are still living at home. They play a larger role in their family's purchasing habits, more than other generations do. They also can connect pretty well with authenticity and having authentic brands, which is what allows for your farm to really sell itself well with the authenticity. Generation X, baby boomers, some of them are retired or retiring soon. These are the parents of millennials and Generation Z. Many of them are becoming grandparents or starting to become grandparents or already grandparents, rather. So look more into some of those deeper reports, and you can find some really good information to really help you think about your customers. Digital marketing, as a lot of us know, requires a lot of time, requires a lot of online trainings, requires a lot of commitment, and it requires money to be pretty effective. That's just kind of the way the beast has been designed, if you will. This shift in digital marketing is a greater focus on content, photos, videos, resources, newsletters I send out every week, the posts I put on my blog post to tell what's going on at the farm. This is where it's going, and this is where the push is. You've got two kind of segments within digital marketing. You have social media, and then you have other digital tools. For your social media, which we'll talk a lot more about today, this is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Pinterest, and many more that are not listed there. Your other digital tools for digital marketing are your newsletter, your website, Google Business, Yelp, Google Ads, and lots of other ones within there as well. So these kind of make up what is out there as far as the digital marketing. Although, of course, there's many others that are starting to emerge or are already there. So a bit of a disclaimer as we get going more into talking about digital marketing and just different things you need to think about. This information is current as of February 2019. If you listen to this webinar 6 months from now, if you listen to this webinar in 2020 on YouTube, you may find that the information I've shared with you is completely different. Things are always changing. We have already heard that Facebook, which owns WhatsApp and owns Instagram, will be integrating all three of their messengers into one. That may be pretty good for you if you have Instagram and you have Facebook for your fan pages, but know that that's coming in 2019. We also understand that Facebook is going to change their ad process and their ad buying by September, if not earlier. And I will talk about Facebook ads today. So the information I share on Facebook ads may be entirely different come September. Things are always changing. That's the simple answer to it. There's great online guides and trainings out there. These are really good resources, but know that it may not be as applicable for you. Many are expecting you to have someone who's your marketer full time, or it is for marketing groups that have a staff that oversee the digital marketing. So you may find that some of the information and recommendations that they make may not make too much sense for what your business is and what your operation is. I also say don't feel like you need to do it all, because as I've gone through the trainings this last year and looked at different avenues, it is overwhelming. There is so many things out there and so many different things to think about with digital marketing. I say start with what you're working on right now, expand a little bit more, but don't feel like you need to check off all the boxes. I think it's also important when we talk about digital marketing to recognize that we're selling a product, a business, an experience that requires a face-to-face interaction. I am focused on digital marketing in order to get, say, people to my orchard, to come to the farmer's market, to purchase a CSA, to visit the orchard, to purchase flowers from me. These are all things that will eventually require a face-to-face interaction and usually a face-to-face sale. Whereas a lot of the digital marketing trainings and focus is on online sales. It is in which there maybe is no face-to-face interaction at the end of that sale. So just kind of keep that in mind, that some of the information out there may work up to 75% of what they're suggesting, but the local food system is just a little bit different here. So I want to talk about some digital tools out there before we get into social media and highlight a couple that still have some very important relevancy for you when it comes to local food systems, digital marketing. The email newsletter is still around. It is still happening, and it is still very, very popular. 44% of US and Canada residents check their emails 1 to 3 times a day. 18% are checking it 4 to 9 times per day. Many of us are on our email all day long due to the work that we do. So it's still a good option for you to consider with your business. It's also, I think, important because it's the hot currency is the email address. Whenever you visit websites, you start to notice that they ask for your email and they say, save 10% if you give us your email. And a lot of it's because they can tailor their email marketing and know that when I send an email to you, it's going to that email address, unless it's bouncing back, unless it's going to spam, etc. But it is one where we kind of know what's happening when I send this off. It is one that can work for some businesses. You know, if I have events coming up, the orchard is open, we are going to do a new product release, we are maybe even talking about the recipes for your CSA, may not work for all businesses, especially if you don't have as much to say on a weekly basis. There are a couple of programs out there, MailChimp, Constant Contact. There's numerous other ones. I don't endorse these two over others that can allow you to set up some really nice streamlined email newsletters. You may find though that the cost is a little prohibitive, as sometimes this can be $20 to $30, if not more, per month to keep this email system going. But just know that this is a really good option to still consider and think about. Your website is one that I think as we shifted towards Facebook, we kind of forgot about. And a lot of farms don't have a website. And while that's fine, the issue though is that if I am a business that depends on people searching for me and finding for me, The website plays a much greater role in SEO than a Facebook fan page does. A Facebook fan page will play a role in SEO, but the website will contribute highly to this. It's also easier to design these websites and maintain than ever before. And you're also not necessarily expecting to update these as regularly as social media. You also still want to think about the mobile experience, because 77%, as mentioned, are on a mobile device. And you also want to create what we call a landing page to gain the visitor's contact information. This is a screenshot of one of the farmers I work with who let me share his website. You see, when I go to his website on my mobile phone, it already asks for an email address because they're going to send a newsletter. They also are asking for if we want to email or call or even map. So still think about the website and still, think about what your options are there, because it can allow and really help you with searching. Google Ads is one of the newer digital marketing we've seen a rise in the last couple of years for. It is one where I, as a user, go to Google, I search for something, and then ads based on what I searched for, as well as where I'm geographically located, as well as a lot of other features that go into the algorithm, will show up these ads. So you see the example here on the left. I searched grass-fed beef, and these were the ads that showed up. If I went further beyond these ads, I would actually get more information and websites and so forth. Google owns YouTube, and so you can actually use advertising through them to add your ad to YouTube. We talk about Google as the search engine because 92.86% market share, so it's a dominant search engine. I think it's one to really think about if your business depends on searches. Where's the nearest orchard near me? Where's the nearest pumpkin patch? Wineries, breweries, meats, flowers, and so forth. My family owns a funeral home in Tennessee, so we, as you can imagine, depend on searches for people to find our funeral home. It is one that I will say is not the easiest to kind of get started. It is one that I say you really need to do some online trainings that Google provides for. And you also get into this thing called a bid process. So one to think about, but still you're going to have to do not as easy, if you will. All right, so a bit more now we get into social media. There is still a large discussion on the role of social media. You also see there's a greater shift towards video and photos happening, and that's common across all social media platforms as they're moving this direction. In 2018, the summer of 2018, we actually saw a change in the Facebook algorithm. So it's harder for my fan page to get on a fan's page. This was intended for more personal contact with friends. It's discouraged post bait, such as a post like I might put up, say, like, click, share, and so forth. And it meant that I had a lower organic reach. So it meant that I wasn't really reaching as many people as I originally was. I think it's also important when we talk about social media to recognize that almost all are expected to decline. These numbers are from Hootsuite from 2018 to 2022. We're seeing a large decline in Facebook for Generation Z, 11.5 to 9.3 million. Generation X, 45.1 to 43.8 by 2022. And across all other social medias, Hootsuite notices this and shares this information. So we're still expecting some declines. And because of these declines, what we might see is social media start to really change their platform, how they reach consumers, and just different changes there. I think it's also important when we talk about social media to really talk about cybersecurity and some other factors that you really need to think about here. A lot of times when we are talking about social media, the effectiveness of the social media depends highly on you being the face of your brand and you providing Instagram, Facebook Live, doing selfies, different things like that that really contribute to the algorithm and allowing for your page to be viewed. So it's something to really think about as you get more involved with some of these social medias. Because of this greater push towards video and photos, it means there's an increasing lack of anonymity. And so you need to decide your comfort with this. If you are okay with putting your face out there, your name out there, you will need to decide how much you really share about the farm and about your operation. Some farmers I know are fully in. There's Facebook Live, there's events, they're showing a lot of themselves, sharing a lot of their information. Other farms I know, they still will share themselves, but they will not do any photos or videos of their children. They draw the line there. I think it's also important to remember this is a business. The fan page and your personal Facebook, there's a blurry line there, I recognize. And it can get kind of blurry when you get more into the digital marketing. I think you have a better option if you want to stay a little more anonymous through websites, even some restrictions with your newsletter, Google Ads, businesses, and others. You may be mentioning your name, but you may be not having your photos up on the websites or in the newsletters and so forth. All right, so Facebook, 68% of US adults are on Facebook, 74% are checking daily. This one was interesting to see. 58 minutes are spent on Facebook by Americans every single day. Doesn't mean you're sitting down and you are looking at Facebook for 58 minutes at one time. It means scattered throughout the day, average Americans are spending 58 minutes. It is still the largest, most dominant social media platform for all generations, even though we see some declines with Generation Z, even though their participation is a little bit lower. There's a greater shift towards video and photo recently, and harder to get on an individual's page without money. More to come. Instagram is owned by Facebook, the videos and photos with a focus on hashtags. So they take a lot of pieces from Twitter, as well as some pieces from Snapchat. And because of it being owned by Facebook, you can integrate Instagram with your Facebook. We see a lot more uses for Generation Z and millennials. We also see a lot more newer things such as the 24-hour video and photo. You upload the video, the photo, and they disappear after 24 hours. You can save these, of course. There is also with Instagram a greater expectation to interact with followers. Followers follow you, you follow them back, and you may find that you have to have a greater interaction there. Globally, 800 million active users. 71% of businesses use Instagram. We've seen an increase of this of 48% since 2016. So some of the others we're not going to spend too much time on are Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. I still know a number of farms that maintain Pinterest and Twitter, and still farms that use Snapchat, but we don't really see them as being the most ease of use or really the ones that align the greatest with your business. Of course, it depends. There's a lot of people that have really good success with their Twitter. Most may also not work for your product or business. As I said, LinkedIn is usually people looking for job opportunities and networking that way. Instagram and Facebook now use Snapchat and Twitter features. Snapchat also has a bit more of a younger focus of Generation Z. The other one you might play around with and get ready for is Nextdoor. This is considered a very hyper-local social media. If you're familiar with Facebook groups, kind of think of Nextdoor as a Facebook group where you're able to join Nextdoor based on your geographical location. So for instance, in Rockford, there's 147 Nextdoor groups. And based on where my house is located, at least from what I understand, I can join these groups. Join that group rather. I'm not currently in an area that has Nextdoor, but it will include recommendations. It also is one that may allow you to purchase ads through their site. At a national conference this past fall in digital marketing, this was one that was mentioned quite a bit, was Nextdoor. So maybe get ready for it, if you will, and kind of get comfortable with what it might look like. So the middle part today, Facebook fan page, general practices. If you haven't downloaded yet already, one thing that really helps to make things very streamlined for your fan page is the Fan Page Manager app. This allows you to really take photos, upload your videos, really have a better integration of insights as to what is going on your fan page. So that's a free app you can download and would be one that you want to really consider if you're managing a fan page. So some of the basic of a fan page, the photos, the videos, you post about day to day, what you'll have at the farmer's market, new products, etc. Use this fan page to tell your story. That's really the key to a really good, successful fan page, a really successful for the digital, is to tell your story and telling it well. Use insights. I'll show you more about insights as we go along. focus on the mobile experience. 88% of all Facebook users are using a mobile device to access Facebook. So still think about the mobile experience as you are creating content and setting up your page. We've seen recently messenger prompts, reviews/recommendation, groups, and events is really good add-ons to a Facebook fan page. I'll talk more about recommendations, groups, and events going forward, but did want to mention messenger prompts. This is one where you might set up if a fan or a non-fan is coming to your page and they are asking, maybe they want to know what day of the week you're open or the times or so forth. And that would be a messenger prompt that you could add in order for them to get that answer if you're away from Facebook. So I put up a Facebook post. This really kind of allows, you put the post up, you put the photo, and then you can kind of see from here that I start to get a reach. And the reach is the individual saw a specific post. You can see with this one, this was taken last summer and had a little over 1,100 reach was who saw my specific post. The reactions, the comments, the shares, this is all part of engagement. So I can see how people are reacting, how they're commenting, and so forth. And it can allow me to kind of see really how people are reacting to this and how maybe I need to keep doing these posts or I need to do posts a little bit differently. When I actually click on the posts, I will get some really good insight. And this is what I find to be the most important piece of this, is that especially if you look on give me a second, kind of the left column here, you start to see a couple of likes and so forth. And this can really kind of tell me how fans are reacting, whether they're promoting my page or not. This middle here, you see that they have these are my original ones. So I had 5 original posts on my Facebook post there. The last column, these are ones that have happened on my share column. So usually I'm not going to be actually able to see these. What I would encourage you to do is that, especially if you're able to look through these and see fans who have liked it, that's great. But you also want to look for those that are not fans and liked it. Sometimes they will show up, and that allows you to kind of create more fans with that. So this is a post I put up because it was running viral, in quotes, if you will. Facebook asked, do you want to boost the post? And I boosted it, but I found that I didn't get much from it. Boosting it is kind of the same interchange of the ads, if you will. More to come on that. So if you go to your page, you'll actually see on the top the insights. And then under insights, you see overview. And here is just a lot of information, some of which you're pretty familiar with. How many people visited my page that week, how many people just maybe barely saw a preview of it but didn't click to go to the page. The reach is kind of where your fans were, how the fans were reached, and how much they were, how many fans were reached that week. And especially if you had shares, how far your reach was too. Post engagements can be pretty important because it can tell me whether they liked it, whether they shared, whether they clicked on a link that I provided that week. This can be really good information. Your recommendations right here. If you have this feature set up, it will mean that people may recommend your page, and you could also find people who give you a low recommendation. And so you've got a customer service problem here that has to be addressed because people can visually see that. More to come on recommendations. The other thing you want to look at, and I'm going to step back real quick, is that under your overview, you're going to see right here kind of your followers information. And that's something really important because it's going to tell you more information on who your fans are and who your followers are. Fans and followers are a little bit interchanged, that terminology is. They both follow your page. It's just that if you determine that you want to be a follower, you're not sharing with your friends that you're a fan of the page. When you decide to be a fan of a page, you're automatically a follower. But if you're a follower, you're not necessarily a fan. Clear as mud, right? Talk a bit more as I go along. So this is great because it tells me my generational breakdown. It tells me how many women are my fans. It also tells me how many men are my fans. It also tells me where the cities they are from. So this is really important because I know my generations, I know my geographical area, and it can really allow me to align with this and make sure that what I'm finding out at the farmers market is also true with who my fans are. The other thing you want to think about under the insights is click under the posts, because the posts will actually tell you quite a bit of when your fans are online, what days of the week, what times they're also online too. I presented this to some growers this past January, and you can see that for our fan page in extension, doesn't really matter too much when we post something. But for farmers, when I talked to, they actually found that there was a day of the week that was the most common. So you're going to find this pretty much. I don't think you're going to find that every day of the week there is an equal number. The other thing that we found when we were looking at, say, your when to post, you can kind of see this down here, is that when 8:30 a.m. to say 9 p.m. at night, it's a pretty steady increase. And if I broke that number down a little bit more, probably wouldn't be too much difference. So this chart is telling me at the top, the day of the week doesn't matter when I post. The times do not matter too much either, as long as it's between, maybe 6 to 9 p.m. and maybe a peak around noon. The thing that I have noticed is that when I post something from 12 to 1 p.m. during the day here, I have much more interaction with my fans. I have about 4 to 5 people who I consider promoters that share, that like, and comment. Versus if I post a similar post from, say, 5:30 to 6 p.m., I don't have those same promoters. So I have found that if I stay between 12 to 1 p.m., I really have a great group of fans that really love my stuff, that promote it, that share, like, and comment. Versus if I post it in the evening, I don't get as much traction. Get a little bit, but not as much. So even though the chart really tells me down here there's not too much difference, I know that there is. Another strategy you want to think about, you put up a post right here. You kind of see here is our post. You go over here to publish, and right here is where you can schedule your posts. And that's a strategy you really want to think about at the start of the week. So you sit down Sunday morning from 8 to maybe 9 a.m., and you put out scheduled posts for the weeks. You can do that for the week. You can also do it for weeks out. So as you're kind of thinking, okay, I'm not really going to have time for social media and for engagement for posts, maybe I'm going to put out a couple ahead of time. And so that on the day of, they're timed to be scheduled that way. Doesn't mean you're not going to do any other posts during the week, but at least means that, if you weren't able to get around to it, 3 to 4 posts are already scheduled to go out that week with it. And you can plan these out sometimes weeks ahead of advance too. So kind of focus on that. Under insights and posts, this is just some more information that helps me kind of see how things are working, how they're not, how are people reacting, how are they not reacting, whether it's the engagement. So when I look at the posts I've put up in the last week or two, I could see what time of the day they were being placed. I could also see what my engagement was, what were the reactions. And if it was something that I felt was really, starting to get much traction, I might actually boost the post. That might be a strategy that I do to get more eyes on this post of both fans as well as your non-fans here. But this is something I think especially you want to look at, and you can go back even from last summer and see how people have been reacting to what you have been sharing. Creating audiences goes hand in hand with Facebook ads and with the Facebook posts, especially if you're going to boost the posts. So these are groups that are narrowed down by demographics and interests, and then you're combining them with ad purchases. You can also use this to promote your page, events, as well as your products that you might be selling to. This is where the money comes in. This is really where Facebook will start asking for money in order to get more visibility. So as you're thinking about your digital marketing budget, you may find you have to pay for play, if you will, here. So under promotions, you're going to go in, you're going to create your audience, and you can see that I have created this audience last year. Potential reach is about 62,000 that I created. What I would encourage you to do is to create multiple audiences, and I'll explain kind of what these audiences could look like. The audience is then shared, or not shared, I rather saved. This audience is saved on Facebook. So I can keep coming back to this audience once I've created it. When you break down and edit this audience, I want to show you what this looks like. I've defined by age, I've defined by gender, I've defined by geographical location. So you could go in and create different generational audiences for millennials, Generation X, baby boomers. And then you could do your Facebook ads with, say, an ad targeting baby boomers to bring their grandchildren to the orchard. You could do an ad for local flowers for millennial females who maybe are thinking of getting married and looking for a local florist. Because once you've defined the age, the gender, the location, you can also put in interests. So you can include a number of interests here in that audience, which is what I've done with my audiences. I've gone in, I've added interests that I think most people will respond to. Facebook will also suggest a number of other interests you might include there too. And then it means that you can be targeting your ads effectively. So, you're not just boosting a post and sending it out. It actually will have a bit of a direction. You can add customer emails to a Facebook audience, but you have to notify your customers you're using their emails for Facebook ads. You will be prompted by Facebook that you have done this. So creating Facebook ads, you want to define your audience, have that audience in mind, set a manageable budget, and this is really up to you what that budget looks like. Have a purpose with your ad. Is it to educate, to get them to come out to the farm for that weekend? Focus on photos with limited text. I would also say that Facebook will suggest if you give Facebook an ad and there's too much text, it will tell you to redo it. Focus on the mobile experience. That's also what you want to think about here as well. This is one of our Facebook ads. It works, but it's something, that's for sure. So keep in mind, it may be very hard, especially as you get more into Facebook ads, to directly say a like, comment, or share into a new customer, purchase, or a visit to your farm. Yet again, you're paying for placement, you're paying for play. You may also find that there's a lot of difference between buying a fan versus organic fans. So Facebook does allow you to promote your fan page, and people may just be clicking on it on a like and following you because it just was cool. Maybe not necessarily that they're going to show up to an extension class, for instance, or show up to your farm. Organic fans are those who maybe find you over some time. They see you at the farmer's market, they buy from you, and a random Saturday night, they decide that they're going to start following your Facebook page. The long goal really is a fan and stranger becomes the promoter. That's really what you're after here. Those that share and those that be valued customers. These are a number of ads that I've done this last year just to play around and see what things are like. Look to see if ad engagements are working. And working, yet again, is going to be up to you and your ROI. So you may find that, I've had some post engagements, people like it, but, I'm still spending 10, 15 cents for that post engagement. Maybe you can kind of see one of the page promotions I did down here ran for a very similar period as the previous one, ran for the same audience, but I was not pleased with what I was getting because I only got about 2 page likes for about 251. You can pause these, you can restart them, you can decide on your budget. This gets into A/B testing too as well. So play around with that. So what about Facebook and Instagram Live? These are 2 avenues that a lot of folks are really utilizing and really liking a lot. When you do a live video, it immediately alerts all your fans and followers that you're currently live. It can make quite a bit of sense for events, being at the farmers markets, sometimes even sharing day to day. These should be spontaneous, and you should consider this as more engagement with your audience. You would also, in most cases, want to go back and look at your insights and see when your fans are most active. Now, if they're most active at 8:30 p.m. at night, not necessarily expecting you to do your live videos at that time. But still look at that information because that can really help you decide where they're at. Yet again, a lot more engagement with your audience here. Events and reviews, or recommendations, I should say, are also two things you want to think about with your Facebook fan page. Events could be a great marketing strategy if you have an open house, a new product release, an opening day of your farm or orchard, and just other events. I would go ahead and maybe see if you can plan these out as the season gets underway, especially because you can promote them more effectively, you can share them, and you can kind of create more of attention with that. We've used events occasionally in our extension office, and they've worked okay. We haven't done fully well as we should have with it, I will state. But a lot of farms use events and work really well. Recommendations you commonly see on business fan pages, and I would encourage you to set up the recommendations because you may find that people will find you and like you and comment, but you need a little bit more recommendations on occasion. And you will be prompted when you visit fan pages to give a recommendation. So you may find that a lot of your promoters and other ones really like these and can use them. And you could create more promoters for your business with it. Can also help you address customer service problems too. Someone gives you a bad review, a bad recommendation, you've got to address that. Facebook groups is where a lot of Facebook is starting to move. This is creating your own. It's joining a Facebook group. It's having it both private as well as public. But it really gives you a captured audience with more interaction with a select group of fans. And these fans we might categorize as promoters. They may be the ones who really believe in your brand and your product and can really offer you a lot of great insight. This could also be that advisory group for you and your products. One of the farms in Illinois, I looked yesterday, has 4 to 5 Facebook groups connected to their farm that they oversee, all on different topics and different subject matters. The other thing now is your page can join groups. So I believe these are not groups that you actually set up, but if you want to join a group, you can do it under the guise of a fan page. So you're not having to put yourself out there, your personal fan page out there. This can work well for some things, as mentioned, valued customers, farmer groups, etc. If it's not your group, still think about community groups because they can provide opportunities to post about your business. So the third part of today, let's talk about getting ready for 2019. So this is taken from Hootsuite, Social Media Trends Report 2019. And these were the top five or so topics that interviews with industry analysts and other digital marketing groups were finding was going to happen with social media. Storytelling focus is still going to happen. It's still going to be encouraged. So telling the day-to-day of your operation, your farm, what's going on at the farm the week, what you're expecting to bring to the farmer's market, and so forth. That's still going to be happening. Chatbots, you already see this already on Facebook page. These are your messenger prompts, if you will. Organic reach is dwindling, and hopefully it doesn't dwindle much more, but just know that that's still where it's going. The disappearing content is the king, the 24-hour video, the 24-hour photo that disappears. That's still very popular and where a lot of engagement is. You see this now a little bit more with Facebook even too. Facebook is still dominating, but there's just greater questions on its role within our day-to-day life. So getting ready for 2019, you do an assessment of your digital marketing. What are you doing well? What are you not doing well? What are you using? What could you be doing a little bit differently too? If you already have a group of customers / promoters who really believe in your brand and in your business, you might reach out to them to even ask, what would you like to see differently? How could we really spread the word about our operation? I have to do this as well. I set up an Instagram last year for our extension office, and I've done okay with it, but I need to do a much better job with it. Look through the Facebook insights. They are so great and really help you figure out who your fans / followers are. When are they the most active? What generations are you reaching? What generations are you not reaching? I also encourage you to look at your fellow farmers near and far, but keep it within reason. There's a number of farms out there who are marketing mavens and marketing rock stars that have been doing this for years and years. And while their operations might be aspirational when it comes to getting your marketing set up. Just know that they've taken some time here to get there. Grow the marketing side of it, if you will. You might look to see if groups can work for you. It's just one thing that you might consider, especially depending on the product and the business that you have. I encourage you to create the audience as well as you can. That's just one thing you really got to think about. And we do this in our extension office as well. So while I have a local foods audience, we have a livestock audience. We have those that health and wellness audience on Facebook. So that if we are going to be promoting a Facebook ad, it is going to an audience that really connects with what we're wanting to offer and what we have to offer. And it's easier to create these now than in the spring. Some other things to think about if you are thinking about getting involved in new products or thinking about developing your product line. Look through Google Trends. This is a website that allows you to kind of see how things are searched for. It also incorporates geographical regions as well. So that's kind of handy when it comes to your product, since maybe not everyone within your area is ready yet for kombucha or ready yet for another value-added product. You can see that I did a search for apple orchards, and we see a peak that happens with apple orchards. So around mid-August, we kind of see a lot of folks are really doing a lot of searches for apple orchards during that time. And so I might try to plan my digital marketing around that. Maybe that's actually the period where I do my Google ads, and that's kind of the only period, perhaps. Look through the food trend reports. These come up every year, right? And they seem like there's a lot of more national focus on them, but I still think there's some things that you can glean from it. Previously, when the food trend reports came out in 2017 and 2018, they're still talking about authentic, health, botanical, such as honey, and local. So these are still things that really check the boxes for the local food system. Now, many of these may not necessarily get there to your area. A 2019 report may not make it just yet. You may need a couple of years before people are ready for some of what they're projecting. Plan out a campaign, set up posts weeks out, think about what you want your marketing to look like. I also encourage you to set yourself a small goal. Each week I will post one live video. I will set up a weekly event for. I will finally set up an Instagram account. I will create 4 audiences before my season begins. I will maintain a website and get a newsletter going. So there's a lot of small pieces that you can do with this. As I know, some of it's related back to the money and what your budget looks like. So I am beginning to wrap up. Go ahead and start putting your questions in the chat box. I know that Zach has already been collecting a lot of these. I want to leave you with some resources. Google Alerts is one I didn't mention. This is one where you can use certain search terms and have an email sent to you once a day, once a week, sometimes once a month. And it can help you start to maybe see what some of those food trends look like and how people are searching and what's kind of going on in the local food system. Search Engine Journal is also a very good website that has a lot of really good information for you when it comes to understanding digital marketing a little bit more. Both HubSpot and Hootsuite are both 2 websites that have a lot of trainings and videos on digital marketing. Lots of good handouts, lots of good strategies, just a lot of really great information that can really help you when it comes to your digital marketing training. Pew Research Center always has a lot of great statistics. So not necessarily the trainings you're expecting, but if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about some of the generational buying habits, you may look through their website and actually see some things that really help you get figured out. The IAB Smart Brief is a daily email newsletter on trends and changes in digital marketing. I subscribe to this and I get this every single day. And while it may not always have relevancy for what you want to do and what you plan to do, it does tend to tell you things that are about to happen or about to change. They also will sometimes compile information as far as spotlighting certain national brands and how they performed when it came to digital marketing. And then one that I can't really forget about mentioning is University of Tennessee's Center for Profitable Agriculture, my alma mater, has an online marketing webinar series specifically for those in the farming community and the local food systems. They're now, I think, in their fourth or fifth month of this year-long webinar series. And so you can go there to register for it. You can also go there and get some of the archived webinars and handouts too. What I like about their series is that, today you heard about different pieces of digital marketing, whereas with theirs, they may spend one particular webinar just on SEO or email newsletters. So it's a really great series, and I encourage you to look through that and get connected with that. So some final thoughts. My gosh, everything is always changing. I cannot go a week without hearing that there's about to be another digital marketing change. So be prepared for change. And that's kind of the best takeaway I really learned through this whole process and trainings and so forth. Try to focus on the mobile experience. I think that's really where you've got to go, especially as the users have smartphones and are utilizing it more. Try to be authentic. I think that is the most greatest thing that you can do, is to have an authentic voice here when it comes to digital marketing. And, I think it's important to sometimes stay in your lane with these things too. Really sell yourself, share your business. Experiment with the advertising. Last summer, I probably spent $50 or $60 experimenting with Facebook ads just to see how things were acting and reacting. And it really helped me to understand the advertising side of it. Know your demographics. My goodness, it's so important to make sure that you are selling to who you're expecting, and know who your purchasers are. Create your Facebook audiences while you can. And at the end of the day, use these tools to tell your story. These are great tools that can help people see what your farm is like, what you're doing, what you're engaging in the community, and really how you're a part of the local food system. So that's my email. That is my phone number. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my Facebook page. What I will let you know is it's a lot of experimenting. So don't think you're going to go there and get a lot of information. I use my fans as guinea pigs, if you will. So if you want to be a guinea pig, you're more than welcome to to follow my Facebook. But it's a lot of just playing around with different things is what I do. So, Zach, I got time for questions, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 8 minutes, and even if we go over a little bit more, I think we can stay on the line. Great content. Loved it, Grant. Very, very useful insights. And we do have some good questions here. I wrote down a couple comments as well, but we'll kind of jump right into this. I had a question before any of the questions came in. I wrote this down. You mentioned hostile takeover of websites. Is there a resource you can go to figure out if a website name has been taken over and so you don't have to reclaim it or pay for it? Can you recommend any resources for that?
Not off the top of my head, I don't. I mean, I would certainly start to search for your business yourself and see kind of if there's particular ones that you want have been claimed already. You may have to go that route and figuring that out. But at the same time, you might even just kind of change what your website, what your planned website looks like. There's not as much information out there as there should be.
Okay. I just wanted to note that, we use MailChimp for our team in Cook County, and they do offer services, free versions of those email newsletter services up to a point. I can't remember what the number is. I think it might be like, 2,000 followers. So there are some free options there. So this question came in. When you are starting with Instagram, this person noticed that many people from their local area weren't following them. And then when they followed them, they unfollow me. So do you have any insights into that, or have you noticed that as a problem or a trend in Instagram of people gaining traction?
Yeah, it's a very common thing. Instagram, there's a couple of applications out there that allow for you to pay a certain fee for a month, and then you can find followers based on certain hashtags and other features. And then once you like them, they then unfollow you.
Oh, right. Okay.
So Instagram has created this kind of atmosphere where there's a lot of robotic interaction, if you will. And I think that's just something that they really have not addressed clearly yet, of how to get the authentic fans compared to the inauthentic ones.
Okay.
When you do an Instagram post, you've seen a lot of people will put hashtags up at the end of their photos. And that can be something that can really allow you to follow and be found. When I do Rockford, I always do Go Rockford as a hashtag, because that's what a lot of the other local businesses use. And so that can help me connect with other businesses as well as connect with individuals in the community too.
Got it. Okay, yeah, just to clarify, they were saying, she said, I have found many people not from my local area following me, and then when I follow them, they unfollow me. So yeah, she loves the hashtag idea, and she thinks that it probably was the bot that was the issue. So great point.
And there's a couple of farms that do that too. So, and that's, I think, a greater discussion later, because those aren't necessarily authentic fans if you're just following for followers' sake.
Right. The next question was, and this is a good question, and I think, within a small business or even with an extension, we grapple with this issue all the time. Would you recommend some affordable resources, or are there resources out there to where you can delegate social media program activities? So essentially social media manager positions. And I know within, even small to medium sized businesses, there's positions dedicated solely to this. So it is a good question. But are there affordable resources, or, what's your thought about outsourcing social media marketing for your operation?
I think you're going to find that there are quite a lot of options in your community. I think a lot of these marketing firms are starting to get more involved in finding those that will just do digital marketing for companies and for farms. And I think that's a greater question for you and your budget, because, when you think about how much time, effort, and energy it's going to take versus if you allowed someone else to do it, you may find that it is a wash, or it's going to save you quite a bit of time. But they have, a lot of these firms have a greater understanding. I would still be a little cautious of interacting with these groups, just because, as I said, you're a different beast in the local food system. And that's just how it goes. There are a couple of applications that can allow you to kind of streamline all your social media into one. Hootsuite is one that does this, and they do have a fee that you have to pay per month. But yet again, that's just some other efforts you have to do.
Okay, great. Someone asked the question, is the fan page the same as a business page?
It is, yes. Sorry about that. I should have clarified that a little bit more.
Okay. Can the presenter mention a few small farms he feels are really doing a great job with their digital marketing? And I wanted to chime in. I meant to. There's a few that I really like, and I just wanted to also mention. And this is a little bit. I'm a little bit biased towards Instagram for this reason, but I think there's a lot of a lot of the small urban farms and sort of small scale local farms are doing a lot more. Marketing or outreach or, awareness campaigns about their farm via Instagram, because it's so visual and simple. And two or three that just really pop out, and you can, Grant, feel free to chime in. One is actually Dog Patch Urban Farms out of Iowa. She does a really good job of, posting consistently and using some of those apps where you can kind of create creative Instagram apps with, lettering and graphics over pictures and things like that, which there's, you may want to mention a few of those as well. I also am a big fan of Steadfast Farms out of Arizona. They do an excellent job on their Instagram page. One of the cool things they do with their CSA share program is they post these really beautiful pictures of what customers are going to be getting each week in their CSA share. So these really well laid out staged photographs. So those are two that really stick out for me. I don't know if you have any that you wanted to throw out there, Grant.
Yeah, it's hard to pick favorites, right? Prairie Earth Farms does a really good job.
Yep.
Katie Bishop knows her stuff, and she is, what I would call marketing maven, marketing rock star. Look at the flower farms near you. I think there's a lot of flower farms out there that are just taking a hold of Instagram And because, as we all know, they're really trying to market to a lot of weddings and different events, they're really using Instagram and Facebook in a really captivating way. I'm a little biased because they're in my area, but Greta's goats, she is fortunate because she has goats and she does goat yoga and sells cheese and other things. And so the goats, I think, are really helping her when it comes to some of her Instagram and Facebook social media. So you'll be very surprised. Greta's Goats is the one, Karen.
Yeah, Greta's Goats and Prairie Earth Farm. They're out of Atlanta, Illinois. That was not Flavor Earth. It's Prairie Earth Farm. And I totally forgot about Katie and Hans. Yeah, Katie does an excellent job with social media. In fact, she's given quite a few presentations about this very topic. So I'm glad you mentioned them. And I've also noticed, like, I know a lot of like my partner and my cousin, they have sort of online businesses around selling vintage clothing, and they're exclusively using Instagram. It seems like there's a lot of and I'm speaking, my bias with small farms, but it also seems like a lot of other small businesses are really, really focused on Instagram right now when it comes to, marketing and doing sales, actual interactive, sales through Instagram itself. So speaking of which, can you recommend a resource for training on how to use Instagram? You spent a lot of time on Facebook, and Facebook has a lot of intuitive tools for getting the word out, but Instagram, it's not as obvious in terms of how you might, do some of these similar things that you can do in Facebook. Are there some resources out there or some tips for that?
Yeah, I would look at HubSpot first. I think HubSpot was the one that I saw recently that had some Instagram tutorials. Because both HubSpot and Hootsuite just really are two ones that are really good about the information out there and using Instagram. I don't know if the Tennessee webinar series will be covering as a whole. They may have already done the webinar, but I believe they are going to cover Instagram. So you will see that one would be also really great because it's very tailored towards the local food, small farms aspect as well. And I just searched, HubSpot does have a really good Instagram marketing one.
Okay.
Look at those too.
And are there some good resources out there? I don't know if you mentioned this. I just wrote this down as a note. Tips for writing ads and posts that can catch short attention spans, because when you hear about social media marketing, it's often about writing these very succinct, clear, attractive posts that can catch the swiping speed of you have 2 seconds to catch their attention. What's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main strategy first is make sure that the visual is correct. I mean, that's just where it's going, and then from there, I think you've got to really lean heavily into the storytelling aspect. Not to say you got to write a paragraph, but the Facebook algorithm is potentially going to not allow for that post to go up if it's something like, click, comment, share. You should just almost go ahead and avoid using those words in your post. It's just not going to do much good with that.
Right. Great. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions that I can see in the chat box. Again, I'd like to thank Grant for this fabulous presentation, sharing his insights into digital marketing. I know it's overwhelming, but I think there are some insights here that could really help your small farm business. And I think it just baby steps and slowly building your campaign. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. I hope you got some good information out of this, and you can put this into play for the 2019 growing season. Look for the email for the link to the archive webinar on our YouTube channel, as well as a short evaluation that we're looking for your feedback to shape future webinars. So with that, have a great Valentine's Day, everyone, and we will see you next week.
All right. Thank you all.